So looking at the link between structure and agency. So advocates of 1325 have often talked about women as natural peace builders, and this has been actually quite a central part of justifying the inclusion of women in peace building and conflict resolution processes. However, there can be a problem with ascribing this role to women without acknowledging that there are power structures, both at the national and the global levels, that may constrain women's potentials in this respect. Such thinking may in the long term actually undermine women's agency by not fully recognising the barriers to it. The power structures that constrain women's potentials include gendered structures, but they also include dimensions such as poverty, lack of resources, which is a point discussed by Laura Shepherd's contribution to our volume. Other constraints may include inequalities between different nations, the so-called warring parties, which is something that Vanessa here touches on in her article and presentation. So rather than just simply calling for women's involvement in peace building and conflict resolution, there needs to be an analysis of women's potential agency within the context of existing power structures in particular countries that inhibit women's truly transformational potential. So the stress is really on analysing the context and acknowledging the structural barriers and not just calling for women's involvement. So the third element that we wanted to highlight is the link between 1325 and feminism. As we alluded to before, 1325 draws on observations by feminist scholars and activists about the link between gender and war dynamics. Yet some of the contributors to our volume question the degree to which feminism has been embraced by the mainstream international agenda on women, peace and security. So for example, Sherry Gibbings' article in the volume demonstrates how 1325 curtails feminist critiques of militarisation as a cause of war. So how can we reconcile the apparent contradiction between the feminist underpinnings of 1325 and the limitations to feminism of 1325? We argue that different evaluations of 1325 by different authors map onto different understandings of feminism as a political project, or feminisms as political projects in the plural. The focus on gender in 1325, rather than other relations of power, or rather in addition to other relations of power such as class and race, is a characteristic of particular feminisms, and those are liberal, radical and cultural feminisms. This focus marginalises other feminist projects, such as post-colonial feminism, that are concerned with the intersectionality of structural inequalities at the national, regional and transnational levels, to quote from previous writings by Nadia Ali and myself. Liberal, radical and cultural feminisms are also unable to comprehend women's agency that does not seek individual emancipation or work within liberal secular frameworks. This is significant because different feminisms ultimately underpin different visions of peace and consequently different projects of peace building. Through its links to particular feminisms, 1325 endorses certain visions of peace and marginalises others, potentially exacerbating differences amongst activists on the ground. And we argue, therefore, it raises new questions about transnational feminist practice today.